Joining us today. SGS is excited to present this webinar on food recalls from undeclared allergens and gluten, creating an effective risk management plan that complies with today's demands. If you look at your screen, you'll notice a few clickable and interactive areas. One of them is the box marked Ask Question. Please type in your thoughts and questions at any point during this event. My name is Lina Bush. I'm a regional sales manager for SGS. And in doing so, I work with food and beverage companies discussing third-party certifications and ways to help strengthen their risk management approach. I'm joined today by Dr. Mamun Chowdhury, SGS Technical Manager in Food and Beverages. Dr. Chowdhury manages our amazing auditors here at SGS, and he will present the topic in the use of allergens in food production, warehouse, and transport activities. Mamun will also share his experiences inspecting food and beverages facilities. In fact, last year, Mamun reached a landmark having audited companies in all 50 US states. For those of you who may not be familiar with SGS, we are a global organization founded in 1878. We're a world-leading inspection, verification, testing, and certification companies. We have more than 93,000 employees, 96,000 employees in 2,600 offices worldwide. We also draw our expertise from covering 11 different industries. Today, we're going to focus on the food and beverage supply chain sector. So here it is. I remember being a reporter before joining SGS. I covered trade associations and industry groups, and we would say, hey, there's an association for every interest. Well, in food and beverage, there's, in a way, an audit or a standard for every part of the sector. And there's some of it here. Sometimes I tell clients, find yourself on this chart. And rest assured, SGS can partner with you and be a resource for you anywhere on this chart. We can help to strengthen and advance business goals. So how do we do that? We are providing a second set of eyes to organizations. We can do that globally as well as locally. We pull from the global reach and network that we have to offer a deep level of industry expertise paired with superior customer service. So this helps us to stand out as a benchmark for quality and integrity. From this part, I will give the stage, so to speak, over to Mamun Chowdhury. Mamun, you can take things from here and lead us into our presentation today.
Sure. Thank you, Lina. And hello, everyone. I'm very much excited, and of course, good afternoon to everyone. And thanks for joining us today. My name is Mamun Chowdhury. I have been working for SGS since 2004 with my current title as Certification and Technical Manager. I am also an active food safety and quality lead auditor that includes gluten-free certification program. I'm also allergic to red meat. To be honest, when I was a child, I had red meat allergy as it gave me a strange, reaction shown through my eyes. My eyes would turn red and itchy every time when I ate red meat, specifically beef. And when I was in college, that is when I was young, then I had a root vegetable allergy, the root vegetable known as stolon of taro. Probably some of you familiar with this vegetable. It's a Southeast Asian specific vegetable. It gave me throat irritations. At that time, neither I nor my parent knew the actual causes, but for sure that inspired me, to study the food science and technology. However, no single food is to be blamed, and all food can be part of good eating plan, as once said by the industry professional. And in fact, not all foods are allergenic and not all humans are allergic, except some vulnerable population who are allergic to certain food. Since there is no cure, Therefore, the vulnerable populations depends on the industry's ability to identify, control, and market the food with accurate food labeling so they can make their choice. And also, you know that accurate food labeling is required by the federal food law. As a supply chain leader, we must do everything within our power to ensure that allergenic food ingredients do not find their way into the product which they are not intended for. And this is the main objective for today's session. So today, I'm going to talk about different aspects of food allergy and gluten control in three short sections. You can see over here, the section one, I will talk about history and importance about the gluten and allergen, as well as applicable laws, regulations pertaining to the food allergen. And in part two, I will talk about the solution, that is risk management tool with risk assessment, risk communications, risk implementation with some best practice tips and benefit for having like good allergen control plan. And part three, the information that I covered will be summarized in short, simple 5 steps so that you can easily understand and easily remember. And then I will hand over to my colleague Lina so that she will continue a few more slides for you before we jump to the question and answer. So let's visit the history first. As most probably most of us, we understand that the food allergies only came in last century or two. However, the truth is the food allergy can be traced back to 2500 BCE. As you can see over here, the Chinese emperor, the two Chinese emperors, the name is Shan Nong and Wang Di, they advised to avoid certain food if it gave them strange skin symptoms, which historians believe might have been what we now call eczema. In the first BCE, the Roman poet and philosopher Titus Lucretius once wrote, "What is food to one, other could be poison." From his words, choice as a poison, which historians believe that he meant the food created awful symptom upon consumption, similar like allergic reaction. A Greek physician, Hippocrates, is often credited with first recognizing the food could be responsible for adverse symptom or even death in some individuals. Until the modern science investigate and confirm the food allergy risks more like in scientific basis. He mentioned in 460 BC the presence of hostile humor due to suffering, especially after ingestion of some kind of food. Today, he's referred the hostile humor, today known as IgE, that is immunoglobulin E antibodies that causes allergic reaction. So, history tells us that the understanding of adverse reaction to food allergy is not new, but it has started over 2000 years ago and strongly suggests us to understand mindful about the symptom and causes of food allergy. Food scientists are also telling us the risk of allergen is emerging, that is increasing. It is due to the advanced technology or many new foods that are eating today, which may not have been eaten by our ancestors. Therefore, our body's immune system may or may not be able to recognize them properly, instead overreact in some occasion. This emphasizes the allergen management is a paramount part of overall food safety management program. For instance, when a food safety issue due to mishandling of allergen ingredients occur, everyone in the food processing industry suffer. Example, if a teriyaki sauce mix supplier has declared that the teriyaki sauce contain wheat and soy, but this teriyaki sauce also contains dairy and nut, but they are unable to capture it, or maybe they are unable to identify it, but they only identify wheat and soy. And then they deliver to their customer. And the customer use this teriyaki sauce to make the, for example, star fire meal. And then they deliver to their various customer in the different marketplace, interstate commerce within the United States, for example. So imagine if identified later, this teriyaki sauce also has dairy and nut, but it is undeclared. How it will impact into entire supply chain. It is because the incorrect allergen management has resulted in significant number of product withdrawal and is the common cause of product recall. And you can see over here, the recent recall due to undeclared egg allergen occurred on March 19, 2022. This information has been taken from FDA website. Here are some data about the approximate number of vulnerable population in the United States. According to American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, they estimated over 50 million people in the United States suffer from food allergy. And according to food allergy research and educations, each year over 200,000 Americans requires emergency medical care due to allergic reaction caused by the food. So food allergy represents a significant health hazard in the United States. And not just in the United States, to be honest. We know that it is also across the globe. And it's continuously, adding more and more over the time. We're going to discuss later. The allergic reaction occurs when an individual at risk adversely reacts to a food or substance, usually protein, which is harmless for most individuals. In addition to the allergy, there are a number of other conditions, for example, food hypersensitivities, which may also cause the adverse symptom in vulnerable populations. This includes intolerances such as lactose and autoimmune diseases such as celiac disease. We often confuse the different terminology. For example, our thought is sometimes some people that thought is the food intolerance, food allergen, and gluten are the same. But those are not exactly the same. So therefore, in this slide, I'll go over to some basic information about food intolerance, allergen, and gluten. Food intolerance or food sensitivity, both are the same, occurs when a person has difficulty to digesting a particular food, example, milk, or particularly lactose. Also, some food color, like FD and C yellow, tartazine, or some food additives like MSG, monosodium glutamate, and many more. It happens when the digestive system is unable to completely break down food into smaller components due to insufficient number of enzymes produced. And this can lead to symptoms such as intestinal gas, abdominal pain, or diarrhea. Food intolerance depends on the ingested amount and usually more in younger than adult. Where food allergy starts when our immune system mistakes the harmless substances to a dangerous invader. The immune system, type IgE, then produce antibodies that remain on alert for that particular allergen, like as a secretive service agent. When vulnerable individual exposed to the allergen again, then antibodies can release a number of chemicals that includes histamine. That causes allergic symptom or reaction, including sometimes a serious and potentially life-threatening medical condition we know as anaphylaxis. On the other hand, the gluten is a protein fractions, gliadin and glutenin, found in grains such as wheat, barley, rye, or their crossbreed varieties or derivatives. Many processed food may also contain the gluten because of their formula. Some people are allergic to wheat, but this is not the same as a gluten allergy. In fact, the gluten allergy is a misleading term commonly confused with wheat allergy or sometimes with celiac disease. There is no such thing as a gluten allergy, but there is a condition called celiac disease because of gluten intolerance. So the celiac disease is a digestive condition because the vulnerable individual are unable to break down the protein molecule that causes severe diarrhea after eating the product containing gluten, rash, severe weight loss, or failure to properly gain weight, and abdominal pain as well. So you can see the food intolerance is a digestive system due to insufficient enzyme to break down the food into smaller components, where allergy is the overreactive immune system, and gluten is also digestive condition like similar like food intolerance, but the gluten is specific to the protein molecule. That means the vulnerable population unable to break down the protein molecule. So there are some distinct and clear differences among these different terms we can see over here. So the prevention as a first level of defense, like I mentioned before, the only successful method is to avoid the food that contain the allergen and gluten by the individual, of course, who are sensitive to it. Since for them, the presence of allergen or gluten in food is potentially life-threatening, and also since there is no other cure, therefore it depends on the industry's ability to correctly and accurately identify or declare the ingredients into the finished product label so they can make that choice. So how shall an organization declare the food allergen in product label? We are going to discuss it over here. Before that, it is also important to understand that the list of allergen is varied from country to country. Example, in the United States, Canada, and Europe, United States has 8 big allergen, Canada 11, Europe 4 or more, 14 or more. So it is the organizational responsibility to confirm that the label statement is meeting the product destination and market requirement, sometime with their partnership with their customers when applicable. It is because the wrong presentations or not to identify the presence of allergen or ingredient is a public health concern, therefore label to be treated as false or misleading. And the product itself is to be considered as a misbranded or adulterated per US federal food law. For example, in the United States, Food, Allergen and Labeling and Consumer Protection Act 2004, short name is FLCPA, they requires the food labels clearly identify the food source name of any ingredient that are from major food allergen or protein derived from the major food allergen ingredient. Here is one example. You can see that acceptable way the food industry can declare the ingredient list in the ingredient statement, and as well as including the allergen. Here you can see that the whey is a milk protein. There's a two protein in the milk. One is whey, other is casein. This whey is derived from the milk within the parentheses. So it's clear because some people may or may not understand the whey, but they easily understand the milk, and the milk is allergen. So whey protein is derived from the milk. It's now clear. Similar like lecithin is emulsifier derived from the soy. The soy is in parentheses. This is the one acceptable method. And you can also see the enriched flour from wheat flour. And other acceptable way is the allergen content next to the ingredient statement. You can see contain wheat, milk, egg, and soy, but there is no parenthesis in here. So both are acceptable, and both are acceptable according to the federal food law. But also on some occasion, industry also use the warning statement, especially when they are not certain to eliminate the allergen risks 100%. It is because they use the shared premises or shared equipment, or sometimes they exchange the stuff. The stuff means producing allergen and non-allergen product. So they are not sure and 100% certain. So that's why they use the warning statement. So what you may see, they use may contain, or process in a facility also process peanut, dairy, or wheat, or to made on shared equipment that process peanut, for example. That's absolutely fine. This may help, but not fully reduce the risk though, because the researchers are saying, that is in food scientists, regulatory personnel also, they're saying some individuals, especially teens, are beginning to ignore the precautionary statement and taking the risks regarding the food they choose to eat, like my daughter, to be honest. She sometimes ignore the may content, they would like to eat. They say, Dad, it's not like an allergen, this is may content, that means it doesn't have anything. All right. But sometimes, like I said, that if risk is not properly controlled, eliminate the risks, that could lead trouble for both the consumer and the industry. So therefore, even it's a precautionary statement, it should not be substitute for good manufacturing practice or allergen control plan. Still, they need to have robust allergen control plan, even they're using precautionary statement. And the gluten-free is a voluntarily claim if meet all the requirements according to the regulations. We know the regulation of gluten-free claim is 20 ppm, or preferably is undetectable gluten. But the 20 ppm is the critical threshold. On August 12, 2020, the FDA issued a final rule on the gluten-free labeling of fermented or hydrolyzed food or hydrolyzed plant protein, including distilled ingredients. And also, the other new allergen has been added, sesame, effective from January 2023. Probably most of us know about it. So, according to the United States Food and Drug Administration's, there are 5 most common food within undeclared allergen risks. Those are bakery product, snacks food, candy, dairy product, and salad dressing, including sauces and gravies. It is due to wide varieties of ingredients they're using into that formula. And there are also risks due to inadequate allergen or gluten-free claim. For instance, if an organization has claimed allergen-free product, for instance, then it has to be made 100% allergen-free ingredient, isn't it? Example, if dairy-free claim on dark chocolate bar, it is expected no dairy ingredients in it. However, an FDA survey they made on 2018 and 2019 revealed that a few samples, that is 4 out of 52 samples they analyzed, those 4 samples they found 600 to 3000 ppm of dairy allergen, which is severe enough which is sufficient enough to cause a severe, dairy allergy or vulnerable to the dairy allergen. Even the product says that, dairy free, but still it has good amount of, the level of dairy ingredients to it. The good part is that all 4 samples were recalled later. So according to the United States Department of Agriculture, if an organization or establishment recall the product because of an undeclared ingredient, there may be a multiple reason, but in short, this establishment likely has failed to address the chemical, that is allergen, food safety hazard in its hazard analysis, failed to support the decision they made in the hazard analysis, failed to reassess the hazard analysis, or failed to effectively implement the control to support the decision they made in the hazard analysis. There may be a few other reasons or maybe a few other root cause, but these root cause are commonly found in any undeclared allergen recall issue. All right, so now let's move to the part 2 to talk about the prevention and the solution, how we can prevent the undeclared or hidden allergen source. In order to prevent the undeclared risks, the food industry needs to have an effective allergen management plan based on the risk assessment. This is also required by the Food Safety Modernization Act, that is Code of Federal Regulation 117, USDA also required that meat and poultry plant shall assess and reassess their hazard and implement the prerequisite program to address if any potential allergen risks. And as well as all GFSI benchmark standard, BRC, for example, FSSC, SQF, IFS, and also the gluten-free certification scheme, of course, require thorough risk assessment, establish the control measure, implement the control measure, substantiate if any allergen or gluten-free claim, and prevent the cross-contamination. When I say the cross-contamination, it is not the same as undeclared allergen. Cross-contact occur when a residue or trace amount of allergen unintentionally crosses over into a product that does not have that allergen. For example, if the vegetable oil used to cook the breaded chicken is also used to prepare the French fried potato, cross-contamination will occur. On the other hand, undeclared allergen is a missing or wrong allergen statement in the finished product label. However, both present equal risks. Here you can see there are 5 main basic principles of risk assessment, which is identification, analyze. That analyze include hazard and risk assessment, plan, review, and document the risks. However, in order to conduct the risk assessment, organization must identify the key leader in their organization who not only understand how ingredients flow, that is move through into the facility, but also understand the vital importance of managing and controlling these ingredients at every stage, from choosing the supplier to handling, that is storage, processing, packaging, and labeling on day-to-day basis. And based on the risk assessment, outcomes shall be documented with decision made. Example, option 1, the decision can be either eliminate the ingredients, so this is allergen-free facility, or there's no formula contain allergen ingredient. Yes, that could be one option based on the decision because the customer requires so, or it's a company's policy, whatever it is. That could be one option, one decision. And the second option is they might have both allergen and non-allergen product, but producing in separate area. That is area dedicated for allergic product, the formula that has allergen, and area dedicated for non-allergen product. This is option 2. And option 3 can be same premises, shared everything possible, based upon the product sequencing, based upon the scheduling, based on the time difference. For example, allergen-free product followed by the allergen-contained product, and the cleaning in between. Cleaning is required in all cases, that for sure. Do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying that if they eliminate the allergen, they don't need to have the cleaning. Still, they need to have the cleaning, but maybe basic cleaning. But if they have, you see the differences. If they have the production in the similar shared equipment, but no doubt they need to have a robust cleaning program, no doubt. And then when they select the cleaning program, it is important to make sure that equipment used to handling allergenic product be sufficiently sanitized before handling non-allergic product. And the cleaning program also needs some technical input. It's not cleaning that I'm decided that this is my cleaning, not like that. It's scientifically, we need to understand the form of the product that the facility is producing. Is it powder product? Is it powder blend? Then maybe one cleaning. For example, if it's a powder blend, if someone use the compressed air, oh my God, they're adding more hazard to it, right? Compressed air must not be used in the powder blend because it will be spread all over. Instead, they need to use the vacuum, exhausting, those kind of things. And then they can follow other cleaning steps as well. How about the liquid form? And when it's the liquid also depends on some technical input to it. Whether the fatty, acidity product, or product content tanning, or it's hydrolyzed protein, those kind of things that we need to understand the product technicality when you decide the cleaning program as well. And of course, we need to have monitoring program to ensure that everything is according to the plan. And if something is deviated, then we need to have the corrective action to correct the deviation before product hits to the market. The product needs to be quarantined, isolated, investigated, can be reprocessed or can be destroyed. This depends on the risks associated with the non-compliance. So if you know your risks and potential route of contamination, what will be the next step? Very straightforward. We know my risks, we know my potential route of contamination. So the next step, mitigate it, get away from it. How? How shall an organization implement control measures they identified or decided from their risk assessment? The answer is, first, we need basic infrastructure, work environment, basic GMP. That's the foundation of any organization, not just for an organization producing allergic or non-allergic products. It is applied for everyone. And then, most importantly, after that, to develop the monitoring plan and the procedure and communicate that monitoring plan and procedure is very important. Communication is very important. If you have to develop the plan and just kept in the management room, it doesn't make any sense. This will not give you any output. Only it will give you or produce good output if it is properly communicated to the respective personnel who are monitoring on day-to-day basis. You see, the training will help where and how allergens are stored, how are allergens handled, who is responsible for executing this, and who is responsible to monitoring this activity. So this information will be clear to the person who is responsible for it. So they know what to do and how to do it and where to keep the records. So this is the part of the training and effective training and communications. And the training will also help to develop the staff competency and to get the desired outcome from each process. Example, incoming inspection. What is expected when you receive the materials, ingredients, packaging items? What I need to do as a receiving, supervisor. Review the label, what the label says, and label information contained are consistent with the certificate of analysis. Is this suppliers are my approved supplier source? Is this supplier supposed to send this kind of materials? Is this supplier provided letter of guarantee? So those kind of information they will properly understand and when they will receive the materials from their supplier. And also training and communication will help good storing practice. When they store, how they will store the ingredients, the inventory, symbol, color code, or when they receive partial use materials from the production process, how they will pack it. It's a double layer packaging to prevent spillage. And also storing practice, the allergen ingredients in the bottom, non-allergen at the top of the rack. So there's no possibility of that some crossover. Usually the industry has dedicated area, but some facility has a space limitation. They might use the same rack, but the idea is allergen always bottom, non-allergen top. That's the good historic practice, I would say. And also during processing, the staff will understand they need to check the formula, make sure that right ingredient in the right formula, and the weight of the ingredient as well, control the rework, work in progress materials. Rework is also important. Make sure that there is no crossover. And the cleaning, we discussed already. The cleaning depends on so many factors. And the main approach of the cleaning is start in cleaning, stay with the cleaning, and verify the cleaning program. The verification depends on, like I said, there's a lot of technical aspect of it. For example, someone can select the range water to be tested in a clean test, or someone may go the specific allergen test like LFD, or someone can go validation program more robust using ELISA method. So there's a lot of technical information that they need to consider when they will develop, verify and validate the cleaning program, as well as finished product, of course. Like I mentioned that if they're producing gluten-free product and gluten-free is a hydrolyzed protein, so the competitive ELISA method is much more preferable and good one to detect the hydrolyzed protein residue in the finished product. So there are a lot of technical information. And of course, the finished product label is the ultimate and last defense that makes sure that label is consistent with the product formula and product specification. Someone take responsibility and verify and check each and every lot before they deliver to the market, or depends on the risks. Organizations should also review the allergen control program and make sure that the plan is still valid and active to prevent any accidental risks. The main point over here is once the organization has developed the allergen management plan, it has to be made, it has to be followed at all the time. Any changes when needed, for instance, addition of new ingredients, product or packaging development, or new product introduced, which was not in before, that has to be followed through documented change management program in high level of review and approval. Example, it has to be reviewed and approved by multiple teams, R&D, regulatory, plant management, directors, has a allergen team. They need to review and they need to confirm that there's no new allergen, there's no risks of allergen, or if there's a new allergen that has to be printed on the finished product label. So they will confirm, they will maintain the product integrity. So this is also required in regulatory as well as required in GFSI standard. And of course, they need to repeat the employee training, make sure that employee did not forget anything. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So annual training program, repeat training annually is common for the industry. That must be included the allergen program. And make sure that you have the recall program, because every precaution, even there might be something can happen. So that recall program will help if something happens that you can withdraw, recall the product as soon as possible from the market before it hits to all over. That's the idea of the recall and market removal plan required by the regulatory FDA, USDA, as well as all GFSI standards that are required. And even if someone does not have any recall but has the plan, the standard required that recall plan has to be reviewed as a mock test to ensure that if something happens, this plan will be working effectively as planned. All right, very good. Let's move to the section part 3. Let's summarize what we have discussed. Although there are many ways we can prevent the undeclared allergen issue, however, all can be summarized in short 5 steps. You can see over here. Step number 1, understand the allergen handles on the site. Makes sense. We need to understand the allergen. We need to understand the formula. That's very important. And also the step number 2, identify the hazard. This is some technical information. We know that number of ingredients, materials, packaging that coming from different sources and how many allergen are handled. But what are the hazards? What are the form of the ingredients that we are receiving? Is it powder? Is it liquid? Or how about the amount of protein likely to be present in the ingredient that we receive? For example, a fully nut oil may contain little protein compared to the whole nut. Similar, like RBD soybean oil, like refined soybean oil. Maybe no trace of, there's no trace of soy protein if it is refined soy oil. But how about that? If it is cold pressed soy oil, that might have some residue. So that is the hazard that we need to understand the hazard as well. And the third step, to identify the cross contamination, where cross contamination can occur. This is also very important. It could be from storage bad practice. It could be from staff during processing bad practice or not monitoring, not apply. Remember that USDA root cause, they said that probably they did not implement properly. That can cause cross-contamination. This is the potential risks. Or maybe staff bad practices. The food in vending machine. The company has dairy allergy, but the vending has wheat allergy. So they are eating the wheat allergy, and they are not properly washed their hands, and that might be possible risks to cross over. There may be multiple reasons, but we need to know that where the cross contamination could occur, so then you can mitigate that. That's the idea. And the step number 4, evaluate the risks and implement the control measure. And the control measure based on the evaluate the risk assessment, and also depends on the risk level, whether it's a high, low, or medium. If it is single item, maybe low, because then it's a whole nut compared to the almond or peanut butter. If it's a whole nut and single item, it might be easy to control. But if someone using almond butter or peanut butter in the formula, and then also has non-peanut butter in the formula, so that might be risk might be high. So that will come from the risk evaluations. And based on that, they need to apply the monitoring plan. And the last step is review the risks and keep it up to date, which is also very important because we need to keep it up to date because there might be so many changes, supply changes, ingredient changes, raw material changes, so many things that could happen. So that we need to review it no matter what. Is there any change or not? We need to review and confirm this plan is up to date. So as a best practice, that is, in order to review and update the allergen management process, organization may use the universal rule. And the universal rule is plan what you want to do with all necessary resources, like we discussed, the competent and trained human resource, infrastructure and work environment with engineering design. You might need some engineering design. For example, separate piping, separate tank, separate pump for bulk ingredient, for example, airborne prevention, good ventilation, exhausting system. So this kind of engineering system you might also need. And do what is planned and check for the compliance and act on the differences as a part of your continual improvement, similar like a PDCA cycle. So what will be the benefit? So we are discussing a lot. So what are the benefits, right? Which is very important. Why I'm going to do and what benefit I'll get after this, after all of this. Yes, the benefit is the first of thing that we need to comply. The benefit you will get to comply with the regulatory, high-level compliance on the regulatory requirements, and as well as if you are certified, then you will maintain your certification without any critical major issue or minor issue even. So absolutely zero observation if you have a robust system in place. And potentially no recall, which is huge, then you will have to build your image to your customer as well as consumer and customer confidence level will be high on your product brand. So this is also, very good, very, excellent outcome of having that robust allergen control plan. And also most importantly, like I mentioned, improve overall business and food safety performance. So those are the key benefits. There are a lot of other benefits. Reduce waste, establish good communications, and good information flow within the organization. There may be a lot of, and repeat customer, and also expand the market once you get no complaint from the market. So there are a lot of benefits. So these are the key benefits that you will get from having this good allergen control plan, and also can prevent hidden source of allergen. All right. So this is it from me now. Thanks, and it has been an absolute pleasure to speaking before you. I hope you enjoy the sessions and taking some good information. Now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lina for a few more slides to cover. Until now, thanks. Lina, please.
Yes, thank you. So absolutely, it's an important note that the only measure for someone who has an allergen is avoidance. No cure for an allergy. So as a result, one of the most important roles the industry can play, of course, is that risk approach and having a really well, robust, thought out assessment plan from all aspects of production. For that, where we can help, perhaps, is we've got the SGS Academy, where we host a lot of the training and other effective measures that facilities can take. Yes, it does relate to the GFSI audit that's been mentioned a couple times, but it really is about best practices on how to make that robust assessment of your place where you work, all the different areas where allergens can be introduced, and how to best mitigate them out of there, because there is no cure for that end user. We do, I guess that's the presentation we had, but we do have some questions. And Mamun, since you've been in the field and seen it from very different angles, I just shared the schedule for anyone that wants to know more on the how-to approach through the SGS Academy. But I might run into the question and answer because quite a few came in. So I will start with one about the catering industry. So let me go to the last slide. In catering, as it's the end user is the next person that touches the food, but of course the materials come in to the caterer. Must the caterer declare allergens on the final product if the raw material contains the allergen only in the process of the production line? So if the raw material contains an allergen, it gets processed through, does the allergen then also get declared on the final product labeling?
So, Lina, is this question? So, can you please repeat this one, please, for me?
Yes. In the catering industry,
Mm-hmm.
if you're the caterer, do you declare the allergen on the final product if the raw material contains an allergen, but it's addressed only on the processing line?
Yes, if any downstream facing product, that has to be clear to maintain the similar informations carry over from the receiving one step back to the one step forward. So this information has to be consistent so that
Okay.
receiver will know that which kind of allergens in it. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So to maintain the one step forward, one step after. Of course, in this case, the step after is the final consumer. This is a method I've actually personally seen too. So the question is about color coding. Is it necessary to standardize the colors of the containers that contain allergens? If yes, how do we measure if this is efficient, effective? So when it comes to color coding the containers in the, let's say, the food factory, is this a necessary step, and how do you measure the efficacy, I would say, of that method? So any insight on there for colors?
Sure. Now, first of all, thank you. As someone said, I hope you're fine. Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you so much. And yes, like I mentioned that it's not the option one that everyone has to follow. It is the flexible option. Someone can go through the color option. Someone can go through the like a sticker, like allergens symbol sticker um, tag. They use the allergen tag. If someone use the color, that depends on what color. There's no that red color has to be for peanut, green color has to be for wheat, white color for dairy. There's no standardized kind of thing. It is company that decide that what color they will go, and they can use so many guidance documents available so they can follow, but they can also decide by their own. All right. Make sure that if you use the color, make sure that everyone understands the color. So that should be most important. That is the most important. But yes, you can go a lot of different other options too. It's up to you.
As long as
That should be once you decide, that should be a color chart posted in the warehouse area. For example, the green mean wheat, red mean dairy, for example. That has to be clearly posted in the warehouse area, as well as, like I mentioned, the communication, the training. That is also important, so they will understand that.
The next question that came in is, for sanitation verification in allergen control program, do you swab for the allergens before or after you do the cleaning step?
If it is before, then it will be environmental monitoring program. For example, I'm not saying this is all the time as the same, but there's a two concept. One is a cleaning verification. The cleaning verification always after the cleaning. But during the production is running or not yet complete, or production is done, not equipment not yet clean. If you take a sample, that will be environmental monitoring, not exactly the cleaning, because cleaning verification is always after the cleaning process.
After. Good to know. Sesame has been added. I guess it was in other countries, as you mentioned, the allergen list changes where you're exporting to. But is there a preferred, the question is there a preferred test method to detect sesame in the product? I'm not sure.
Sesame, no, there's no preferred method as of now. Yeah, that could be. Sesame is already in allergen in other countries, like in Canada and Europe. So this has been proven that existing method is able to detect the protein from sesame oil or tahini. But the most importantly is that sesame is the ingredient. There's a lot of different names. So for example, the tahini, for example, sesame oil, not exactly, that saying the sesame, but it could be different names. So we need to be much more careful when this law is applied on January 2023. When you will update your system, make sure that you have proper communication to your supplier. But in your question, yes, the existing method is proven to detect the sesame, like LFD will be okay. LFD or allergen.
Disclosures, well, actually on that topic of, okay, there's one thing to detect it in your product through testing or through swabbing, but then you've got to disclose it on the packaging. So I've got a question now that says, is a product warning statement may contain acceptable on all labels to cover the base, or what type of additional labeling might be needed?
Uh, for the allergen, there is no threshold. If they use the allergen ingredient, it has to be labeled.
Okay.
It's not a threshold like a gluten has a 20 ppm or less than that. They can go for gluten free. But for allergen, no. If
No
they use, no
tolerance.
matter what, yeah. If they use, even they say that undetectable. For example, I'm using sesame, and the finished product saying undetectable. That might be a problem on the test equipment. Right? So according to the law, it has to be in the label. May contain, like I said, the voluntarily. The formula does not have any allergen ingredients. The problem is that facility is shared with other formula that has an allergen, and the organization is not clear. That might be some carryover, so that's why they are not certain. But may contain only acceptable if the product formula does not have any allergen ingredient. That we need to understand. If the product formula has allergen ingredient, then if someone use the may content, which is misleading and mispresentation, please be remember that may content only allow that formula does not have any allergen. It's
Okay.
only there's a possibility from others formula. So they're not taking any risks, but they're warning the customer that product does not have any allergen, but because of their sharing premises or equipment, that might some crossover. But this formula, no allergen, that for sure.
So if it's in the recipe, the allergen gets disclosed on the package.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Or you have the daughter. You mentioned your daughter sometimes tastes that may risk as an end consumer. We've got a couple more now. So some sites, this is coming from, again, so much of our audience is doing this day in and day out. So some sites are seen using ATP swabbing in order to monitor allergen cleaning versus ATP swabbing versus allergen specific swabbing. Is there a more effective between those two? So maybe we can push it to the group. Okay, you can see that.
Definitely that how you are thinking, what level of control that you are thinking based on the risk assessment. Will you go for a robust allergen management program or something based on the risks that allergen ATP cleaning swab is okay? It's up to you to decide. For example, if the company producing, like I mentioned, the peanut or almond butter, and they are only using like for ATP cleaning swab, may or may not be appropriate instead of having LFD, like a antibody based swab or clean trace total protein swab, those kind of things. So there is no specific requirement that you have to use that, but that's why they emphasize on risk assessment and how you think, how you can protect your customer and consumer, that you need to decide based on the risk assessment. Obviously, if the risk assessment has like a gap area, gray area, then regulatory inspector or third-party auditor will capture it. So that might you need to update, that for sure. Yeah. But as of now, I have seen many times that industry using ATP swabbing, for example, if they're using single item or they're not using any allergen, but they would like to confirm. Then I have seen that some facility also using the visual check. Visual is also good check. Eye is first sight that we have to satisfy our eye first. Right? So the visual check as well. But like I said, it depends on the how robust your allergen control plan and what kind of ingredients you are handling. that will determine that what kind of, verification monitoring program that you need to have put in place.
That it coincides with the level of risk you've determined. There's other questions coming in. This is really good. I'm just trying to make sure that I capture it. On fermented or hydrolyzed food, with the presence of gluten for the allergen and gluten pleasance, does SGS consider U.S. regulations regarding fermented or hydrolyzed food in an allergen gluten audit, even when the finished product has less than 20 parts per million? So if you use the ELISA test and you've got the less than 20 parts per million.
Yeah, for FDA, if you read the FDA new regulations that I mentioned, August 12, 2022, they said that as of now, there's no valid method to determine the hydrolyzed protein, specific to hydrolyzed plant protein or distilled ingredient. And distillate product, usually there's no allergen because allergen molecule, gluten molecule is higher, so it's not go up and come back. So the the distilling process. But the only problem is distill if they use other ingredients to it, like a color, flavor, whatever it is. That might be it. So in your question that, yeah, gluten-free certification program, they added the competitive ELISA method, especially for hydrolyzed protein. So that give you most authenticate and accurate test result compared to other ELISA, like a sandwich method. Sandwich method can be used, but they're not sure that sandwich ELISA method will give you the accurate result. So the accurate result, if it is hydrolyzed protein, according to the GFSI standard and international standard, they say that it has to be like a competitive ELISA method.
Excellent. They come in at the same time. I'm about to read one, and another one comes in. This is great. So again with the cleaning, I have one that says, does a sanitizer chemical, can that affect the equivalent with swabbing? Should ATP or allergen specific swabbing happen before the step of sanitizer chemical is applied? So it's timing when you do the cleaning protocol and testing on efficacy. I guess process order.
Right. Yeah, and the flushing, yes, flushing, even someone flush rinse with more water, more volume water, or product flushing, still they need to validate that first. Validation is important in that scenario. How much product that you're flushing, how much can, rinse water you're flushing? Is it like a 5 gallon or is it like a, 50 pound of finished product? After the 50 pound of finished product, then the product is flushing downgraded to, allergen regular product. And then after that 50-pound product flushing, that product considered to be non-allergen. That 50 pound is sufficient or not? How do you ensure that? So still we need to validate that, that part. And in terms of the chemical, using the sanitizer chemical, we need to make sure that enzyme they use in the chemical, what kind of enzyme, if they're like a help to break down the, food residue molecule, they use the chemical. So the MSDS will help you to properly understand that what kind of chemical that you're using or sanitizer that you're using, is it has any additional allergen, or we need to consider of it. All right. So it depends on MSDS, but not too much, for chemical, because everyone understand that the chemical and every chemical, if it is, especially for example, correct me if I'm wrong, if the sanitizer is a non-rinseable sanitizer, the most of the time you see the non-rinseable sanitizer is made of peracetic acid solution, right? So peracetic acid is peracetic acid. It does not have any enzyme or anything else. But if it is rinseable chemical sanitizer, that might have something. Yeah.
So then I guess it depends what you're using as a sanitizer, if it's parasitic or
Right.
not.
So I would recommend to review the MSDS clearly, so yeah, MSDS will tell the composition of the chemical in details. For example, the lubricant, grease, they use in accidental, food contact. So they should use the lubricant and grease. So according to the GFSI, they need to clearly identify that is this grease or lubricants coming from any allergic source or not. If it is synthetic, then it's okay. But if it is not a synthetic, that could be some allergic source as well. So they need to have letter of guarantee or MSDS, a composition of lubricant. The similar like a say it as a chemical. Yeah.
And that's kind of like your example. If you don't want to be introducing a risk as well with the one that you chose in your process. I think we're at the hour, but let's do one more question. This is regarding, again, with the cleaning. Is hot water necessary for surface cleaning when the aim is to remove the allergen? So for example, you have soy in your process. Is hot water necessary, or does that have a role in removing effectively the allergen?
So what water may help, but no one can give the guarantee. So again, this is up to you to validate that what water, what temperature that you're using, 80 degrees centigrade or what temperature, and how long the hot water exposing the equipment, is this sufficient enough? So after the water, the end of the cleaning, hot water washing, I cannot tell you because I do not know that how many other ingredients are happened, even the soya. That this ideal is we need to validate that cleaning to ensure that even the hot water using, there is no residue carryover after this amount of exposing, like a 10-minute hot washing or 5-minute hot water circulations. Yeah, it is all about your validation and verification program. You are the expert as well. You need to decide that. Yeah, but our input is at this level stays. Yes, we you need to validate that to buying test different LFD. LFD is more like a verification, but if the product does not have any like a soya at the end, then allergen method will help you to give you the more authentic and accurate test result. And validation you don't have to do every time. It could be like one formula 1 year unless there is any change. But the verification is continuous. So yeah.
Excellent. So you have that to back up your methods, depending on what the test result is, I guess. Honestly, thank you guys. Actually, we've got a few questions, but I want to be respectful of the event time. I really appreciate everyone joining us for this hour together, and I don't want to extend too far into it. Please, for anyone that did ask a question or have a comment, know that we will personally get back to you. We will get them all answered, so thank you for putting them in there. We didn't get to all of them today, so you will be getting an email specific to your question and to your comments from us after the fact. I had mentioned training for anyone that does want to know, dig a little deeper into this method, of course, of setting a robust strategy appropriate for your process and your area in that food chain and supply chain. So we do have the SGS Academy. We have courses, again, because there's courses in Canadian for our Canadian clients as well as US clients. There's 2 different landing pages there. You see it. There's also our direct contact information for me and Mamun if anyone wants to reach out. We certainly will round back with those that have reached out in the questions box that we didn't get to. Other than that, please do I guess keep checking back in with SGS. We love putting these events together. We love sharing with you our notes from the field and our latest information. So appreciate everyone's time. Anyone that wants to dig deeper into the training, you can reach out to me personally. I'm there, lina.bush@sgs.com. And we have thousands of courses on thousands of topics. So we can get that fit for you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.